Hello everybody, you tuned into Crackcore. So on today's edition, we're getting deep. Oh yes. 20,000 leagues below the ocean, which is, I don't know, probably the centre of the earth. I don't know, but so today, I had a thought. I was thinking about, I had one thought, you know. So anyway, I started thinking about, well basically, I'll tell you, I'll just put it out there. I was pissed off about something. Something was really annoying. And I started thinking about the process of being annoyed and how that kind of works. So I realised that what I was doing was emotionally projecting a false reality and then living within it. So ultimately what I was doing was I was thinking about this situation. My emotions were then creating through my imagination this alternative reality that I was then experiencing outside of the ever-flowing moment, which is the now. And ultimately, that was a choice of mine. So I was choosing to dispel, reality, just to not be part of reality, and to dwell within this alternate state that I was creating and projecting through an emotional fucking state. Now this, I think, is something that is worth looking at in greater detail, and I think I'm going to actually go away and think about this deeper for a long period of time, because I feel as though on a daily basis, how often do we do this? A lot, probably. I mean, how often have you done this? If you think about it, every single time you relive a moment, it's not actually there, is it? You're creating it with your imagination. And your imagination is creating it from the emotion, the residual emotion that is still connected to that past event. Now, when you're sat there, you aren't necessarily sat there. You are physically, but mentally you're not actually sat there. Mentally you're somewhere else. So you are almost, in some respects, creating a box of, so each individual thing that you feel emotionally, responsive to, these past events, each one is representative of a box. Now, you can go and sit in each one of these boxes and experience those emotions and experience that fucking thing over and over again for as long as you want. But remember, it's your choice to step out of reality and go and sit in that box. Now, you can throw that fucking box in the bin, maybe keep a little keepsake from it. Fucking hell. I just went under a tree there, and the fucking thing must have just unloaded all of its water that was attached to its leaves on my windscreen. I don't know if you heard that on the video, but I'm fucking mad. But anyway, so maybe keep a little keepsake just to remind you that you've overcome what it was that was in that little box, that emotional box. And if you look at it this way, through the box analogy, it's a bit like hoarding. I mean, how many of you have got a box under the bed or a drawer in the kitchen that's full of shit? And when you go through it and you try and throw it away, you think, oh, well, no, that reminds me of this thing. That reminds me of that thing. You look around your house and everything is there to remind you of past shit. Some things remind you of good things and other things remind you of bad things. And this is hoarding. I mean, if you look at people like the samurai, their homes were extremely Spartan. They didn't contain keepsakes. You had everything that you needed, and that was it. Now, I mean, obviously, I wasn't there at the time, but the way it's depicted, through Zen Buddhism and Feng Shui, or Feng Shui, however you want to put it, that's the way it's kind of depicted, that it was just a very what you needed kind of lifestyle, and everything else You know, the real treasures in life weren't that you fill your home with physically, it was that which you can fill yourself with spiritually. You know, betterment of the self as opposed to betterment of our physical fucking households and stuff like this. So you needed good quality things of what was actually there that you needed. You know, the best quality possible, made properly. However, there was no room for bric-a-brac and tat and fucking odds and ends. So if you look at life, you could probably say it goes hand in hand that if you're a person that hoards things, you're quite possibly a person then, you know, that hoards emotions and attachment to past events that invoke, you know, feelings and certain things within you. And in order to clean out, you know, in order to clean out yourself, it then goes hand in hand that you would probably have to clean out your house. Now, there is an old saying that says, you know, because sayings usually say stuff, clean house, clean mind, and all of this kind of thing. And you think, well, actually, you know, you hear these little fucking things and you go, these adages, and you say, you know, these proverbs, and you say, well, maybe actually they've got some fucking sense to them, you know, but perhaps there's something to it. Because when you look down at the base of it and you realise that, yes, these physical things that I'm fucking holding on to, this clutter in my house, it's only there because there is an emotional, sentimental attachment to it. Because let's face it, you know, let's look at it from the other side. Once something stops being useful, do you hang on to it? Say, for instance, your shoe's got a fucking hole in the sole. Do you keep them? Probably not. You probably sling them in the fucking bin. But if you're a person that doesn't throw those shoes away, why is that? It's probably because you have an emotional connection to those shoes. Now they are no longer practical. They're no longer useful. They've ended their useful life. You hang on to it regardless because you're now emotionally attached. Because you think, well, these were the really, really best pair of shoes I ever had. Oh, I went to fucking so-and-so in these shoes. Oh, yeah, first time I ever went to this gig, or, you know, watched this band, it was in these shoes. You know, first time I met my fucking wife or my husband, it was in these shoes. Oh, I got married in these shoes. You know, how many emotional attachments can you have to one item? And then you hoard it because it's an emotional thing. And then you keep it in the bottom of a fucking wardrobe, perhaps gathering dust. And it's, what is it for? Nothing. Because it's not useful anymore. You know, it's no longer practical to your life. So, what I was saying is, when you look at the whole situation and you realise that actually, by keeping hold of all these things, I mean, the physical analogy of that was just an analogy. But going back to the first point, with regards to the projection, the emotional projection, when you keep a hold of all of these emotional responses, when you keep a hold of these things and you allow these things to just keep coming back and coming back and coming back, what you are doing is robbing yourself of the present. You're robbing yourself of the here and now. And that is the ever-flowing moment, the only chance you have ever got to make a change, the only chance you have ever got to actually live is right here, right now. So if you're robbing yourself of the here and now, then you're robbing yourself of the chance to actually live. Because it's not living if you are continuously reliving the past through emotional responses and clinging on to some form of a reason to hate or a reason to, I don't know, be annoyed about something. And in most respects, you know, and a reason to feel happy about something that you can just remember anyway. Like I said, theoretically, you can get rid of these emotions, you can get rid of these scenarios and these you know, these little things in your mind that, you know, and kind of how that happens is probably forgiveness or, you know, just creating new happy memories by the here and now, of course. The here and now is the tool. It's the very weapon you need to actually carve yourself a life. Now, if you think about it, just going back to the, the samurai, they said that their soul was represented by their sword, or moreover, their sword represented their soul, or at least one of their swords. So, life is often explained as a double-edged sword. Now, this is representative of the two sides to a blade. You have the past and the future on either side, meaning the present is in the middle there. So, I know samurai swords only had one cutting edge, but you can see what I'm trying to say here. So ultimately, if you want to carve yourself a piece of your own life, carve yourself a life that is livable, that is actually being lived, then you just need to fucking simply live it in the here and now and wield that sword as a tool to actually own the present, because that's what it represents. By using the past and the past and the future as a guide, but not something that takes you out of the present completely. And I'm going to leave it on that. So, this is Cragcore signing off, and I'm going to leave you with that projection, the projection of my mind. Peace and love, everybody. Out.